Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We got DanK on this side of the table, or this side. Anyway, I got Mike on next to me here. We're here to talk about cannabis issues, cannabis law, use of medical marijuana, and recreational now and then. As I go through the internet looking for stories, I come across a lot more than what we can cover in detail. So it dawned on me that I need to start running through headlines. At least it can give some of our viewers an idea of what's going on. Congress forms an over-criminalization task force. Remember when we used to say you don't have to make a federal case out of it? Well, we did. Now we have more than 4,500 federal criminal laws, and some members of Congress are ready to do something about it. So that sounds hopeful. We can always hope.
It sounds hopeful, but this is coming from Congress?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
right.
We'll see.
California Senate passes the drug defelonization bill. A bill that would give California prosecutors the option of changing hard drug possession as a misdemeanor instead of a felony has passed the state Senate and now heads to the Assembly. So a lot of they're looking for ways to cut back on expenses.
And they call it a harm reduction policy.
Yeah.
Where they're going to stop the criminalization of this and say, hey, these are people that have medical needs first. And so it's a good idea, but I think they need to really still remove marijuana from that dangerous category that they still to this day label it as being a dangerous drug. You hear that from the U.S. Attorney, from the DEA, all these people who I'm sure are concerned about their jobs first before they're concerned about anything else. So, but in 2013, they still are saying the same thing. They have spent 70 years saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's we've known for years that the prisons are overfilled with people that shouldn't even be in there, drug crimes. So there's sometimes you think they might be doing something about it. So I don't know.
Well, the sad thing is they seem to use they know it looks bad when you arrest patients, so they try their best to try to put patients in a compromising position, like those activists in Idaho a couple of weeks ago who really waited for an opportunity time for people that were just, upfront activists. They were publicly on television, and they took their kids away.
Yeah, we'll cover that story here in a minute.
Yeah.
That's just egregious. Wow.
Yeah, they go after your life, and they don't really put you in jail anymore. They just make it impossible to make a living wage or to raise children.
Colorado marijuana commerce bills approved. It went down to the wire, but on the last day of the session, the Colorado legislature passed bills to regulate the state's looming legal marijuana market. You been keeping up on that?
Well, I also know there's going to be an attempt to repeal it as well. So that also made it through. Yeah. So Colorado is going to get the chance to vote it in one more time. There's a lot of, what's the right word for it, hot air on the airwaves in Colorado, and so people need to be, their own best judge and not let the rhetoric coming from, TV media or others frame your opinion of it, because they're trying to make it seem like the state taxpayers are going to have to pay extra money so people can have their medical pot, and everybody's in Washington as well are complaining that, well, if we're not going to get the money you promised us, what's the point? And in that argument, it seems like, well, the point is it's a terrible law that does more damage than the use of cannabis can ever do. And they don't even address that now. It's just about the money. It's about the money. And Washington, same way. They want the money. It doesn't matter that people are in jail, their lives are ruined, children are taken away from parents for something that is more benign than alcohol. Yet we promote alcohol. You can't watch TV, you can't watch sports and not have some kind of subliminal message that alcohol will get good things coming your way, even though it's, toxic and dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah, the Colorado harm reduction bills passed. Separate overdose prevention and syringe exchange bills were approved by the Colorado legislature this week. They now go to the governor's desk. So harm reduction is moving forward, and
It's been in Seattle for a number of years and has been very successful. And that's one thing that we hope that the current drug czar, Gilikowski, who was a Seattle Police Department Chief of Police, and he was very involved with the harm reduction policies and saw how well it worked in the community. And so it's nice to see that exported, but the same message is out there, you know, that cannabis is still a dangerous drug, and I'm frustrated that that rhetoric is still so prevalent in the media these days.
yeah, and the medical marijuana update, marijuana rescheduling is headed for the U.S. Supreme Court. The California Supreme Court upheld local dispensary bans. We also have an article on that we'll try to get to later. The feds strike again in Berkeley and Washington State, and there is action in the state legislatures too.
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, the feds are actually, how many dispensaries? I've forgotten the number, but a number of them.
In Seattle?
Yeah.
There's the last count of about 115.
Yeah.
Just in the Seattle city limits,
Yeah.
King County, basically. I don't know how many are in the state because they're fluctuating. They always have. If you look at a map of Seattle and keeping in the framework of the new law, that there really is no place in Seattle that you can technically have a dispensary, or for that matter, any kind of recreational, which is why it's, they're having such problems in Washington implementing this. I mean, there's still, it's going to be next year, maybe a year from now, hopefully, before you can even buy a legal ounce of marijuana.
I can just imagine the typical uninformed pot smoker is saying, well, I thought it was legal. What's up? Trying to explain it to them.
There's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, you didn't see this coming, did you? So you also got to look at the fact that the people that they have hired to help implement this, half of the board in Washington has been really, at best, just kind of middle road about their support toward medical cannabis, let alone trying to, say that, hey, maybe the laws are bad, maybe they do more harm than the actual drug use of it itself does. So, now they're being thrown into this, a new area, which is about making money. They've been promised that you can make these hundreds of millions of dollars, and like all politics, things got inflated a little bit. And so now they're trying to put, reality in with this mix, and it's giving them fits. So the state legislature is worried about the fact that there's no registry in Washington, so they don't know how many people are card holders, so to speak. And so they're worried that you can't produce, a product that you can't get at a dispensary cheaper. So, look out, here we go. Who knows who's going to win the day. But if you look at the mandate for the liquor board, which they're trying to put in control of the medical cannabis industry in Washington, their mandate states that, it was written back in 1935, I think, to limit access and to just tax it to high heaven. And so you can't have these people in charge of the medical marijuana industry when their key focus point is to limit access and to make it so expensive that doesn't jive with most people's medical requirements. So we need to kind of get back to, patients first, to heck with, just making money. Make your money off the recreational weed. Figure out a way to do it. You can do it. Pay more. So they need to be a little bit more, I don't know what the right word for it is, but they need to think outside the box, to use a really overused term, because they are creating an industry that doesn't exist against a federal government that doesn't want to see it and is making attempts subtly to make it go away, which is really kind of a frustrating thing to see. People using the Reagan era rhetoric, Reader's Digest articles that were really written back, the time when my parents were teenagers, and I'm an old man. So all this has been disproven, but you still hear it. You hear it from all the U.S. attorneys, you hear it from the DEA, you hear from the DEA chief that it's a dangerous drug, when there's no proof anywhere that this is even close to being true. And in fact, it's such a huge misstatement of fact that I think these people need to be held to account for it, because it's a blatant lie. I mean, call it for what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in New Hampshire, we had hopes for New Hampshire, but New Hampshire marijuana decrim bill was defeated in the Senate. So the next state to decriminalize marijuana won't be New Hampshire, at least not this year. And then Louisiana man swallows drugs, dies during a search. A drug search turned fatal for a Louisiana man last Thursday night, with police saying he died after swallowing crack cocaine. He's number 11 for the year in drug deaths.
Was so afraid of the law and going to jail.
Yeah.
That he basically committed suicide.
Yeah. Swallowed crack cocaine. So anyway, that's what we're faced with, and that's what we're living with.
That's our drug war.
And that's right. And then the story of the Idaho seizes the medical marijuana activist kids. This has outraged our activist community. These are people that a lot of us know personally, longtime activists, and they're been working with patients for a number of years. And apparently what happened was they were gone on a retreat, and it says, police persuaded a babysitter to let them search the residence and found drug paraphernalia, items commonly used to smoke marijuana, and a quantity of a substance that appeared to be marijuana in locations inside the house accessible to the children. Police at the scene then contacted both narcotics investigators and the department's Special Victims Unit.
Like to see Idaho on the ball, protecting the public interest.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, this is the same
protecting
state,
their jobs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is the same state that got the heads-up tip from an Oregon State police officer that somebody was coming into Idaho with marijuana, and they gave him a description of the car, and consequently Idaho stopped him and cited him.
Yeah, if you're anywhere outside, I think on any interstate road, probably more so off on a county road, you can count on being pulled over.
That's right. In fact, the first paragraph makes it pretty well. It says, Idaho is officially not a marijuana-friendly state. Although it is bordered on most sides by medical marijuana states, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and Montana, it so far refuses to accept the medical use of the herb. And even though one of those states, Washington, has legalized marijuana, and two others, Nevada and Oregon, have decriminalized it, Nevada remains firmly grounded in 20th century attitudes towards the plant. The state legislature this year took time to approve a non-binding resolution noting its opposition to marijuana legalization. So
I guess they just want to grow potatoes in Idaho, you know, just leave it at that.
They want to stay firm. So we'll be talking about this a little bit more in the next segment, so I want you to stay tuned, and we've got some more information for you. And take this time to come on down and invite you to the Oregon Cannabis TV show behind Sheldon High School, Monday nights at 7:30. So we'll be back.
And now, a message from the American Marijuana Growers Association.
Hi, I'm a farmer, and I work hard every day to grow high-quality marijuana, the biggest cash crop in these United States. I'd like to thank you for your support of U.S. marijuana policy. Because marijuana is illegal, I don't have to pay taxes. Even better, prohibition leads to artificially inflated prices, which means a better quality of life for me and my family, as long as I don't get caught. Just as importantly, your tax dollars support thousands of U.S. agents who work tirelessly to keep low-grade, foreign marijuana out of our country. So thank you, America. And remember, whether you're nauseated from chemotherapy or just in the mood for a nice cool buzz, choose the best pot in the world, American homegrown.
Hello, we're back again. You got DanK here and Mike beside me. We're talking, last segment, we're just at the end of the segment, we're talking about how Idaho seized the medical marijuana activist kids. An egregious act. They waited until they were out of state and then took the opportunity to get inside by talking to their babysitter. That's one of the common problems with police. We had a case of a guy in Roseburg that his teenage son, apparently loose lips sink ships, his teenage son was telling people they were growing pot there, and consequently Dad was upstairs medicating, and the cops knocked on the front door. The teenage son answered the door, let the cops in. The cops smelled the cannabis, supposedly, found Dad medicating and charged him with possession and endangering, endangering because of the kid there. And he ended up beating the charges. He was a patient out of California with an expired card, but he could prove that he qualified for it medically. So he got a lawyer. I think it cost him several $1,000s, and he was able to beat the charges, but at least the serious charges. But it cost him, like I said, several $1,000s. So you have to be real careful. Educate everybody in your house on the procedures.
Well, especially, I mean, the Reinhardts and Sarah Caldwell but they're part of Compassionate Idaho. And so these people are on the news, they're in the media, they're in the public spotlight, and they are articulate, and sadly, they are also very sick. And cannabis does work for them and makes their lives worth living. And for the police to go after people in this way is really kind of abhorrent in today's day. I mean, when we know better, we really do. So the continued rhetoric from everybody from the U.S. Attorney down to the Boise police is just like, what planet are you people on? I mean, it's just about their jobs. They're all afraid that if they can't go after marijuana tokers, they don't have anything else to do. I mean, we think they do. There's a lot of work back on Wall Street, I think. You could take the DEA and throw them back there, and they could spend, the rest of my lifetime before they'd even come close to cleaning up that mess. Mm-hmm. But they've got the tools for it. I mean, they're nothing but, lawyers and accountants. And so, yeah, I'd stick them on Wall Street, but then it goes back to, well, why is tobacco legal? Why is alcohol legal? When that stuff kills thousands every year. Cannabis has never killed anybody, period. They even, in the last few years, I don't mean to laugh, but people have tried to prove that you can actually have so much cannabis in your system that it becomes toxic to your body and makes you sick and can kill you. And one way they've tried to investigate that is by getting dogs high. So they're trying to kill dogs to prove a point that they know is patently wrong. I mean, anybody who's been involved in any kind of the pharmacology with cannabis would know that you can't ingest enough to kill you. It's impossible. But yeah, it's a dangerous drug.
Oh yeah.
A dangerous drug of convenience. So
it's always the irony of it being a dangerous drug, and then the kids smoke this fake pot.
Well, they go and get the spice and the stuff that they sell freely, in tobacco stores in Seattle. And I remember, I smoke tobacco, so I'm stupid. But at the same time, I go in there to these tobacco stores and they're selling this stuff called K2, spice, and it's just like, but that's okay, that's legal.
Yeah.
It's legal until you go down in Tacoma, and then of course they banned it down there because they know better, but I don't know.
Yeah, so you got a safe drug that's illegal, so the kids go after the other drug. So anyway, it's just, and the other stuff's really harmful. It's very frustrating. So back to this Idaho deal, both families believe they were set up. Mm-hmm. Lindsay Reinhardt is saying, excuse me, I'm the director of Compassionate Idaho. Everyone knows who I am. I'm on the news at least once a month. We had just done the Hemp Fest in Moscow and signature gathering in 5 towns. The police knew what they were looking for, and they knew where to look without anyone telling them. Those kids on the playground didn't know where to look. There were kids from several other families involved in the playground incident, but we think the police got who they wanted. I think they were targeting us, Caldwell agreed. The incident at the school was just an excuse for them to get to us. I've always been a little concerned being an activist, but I've only, you might say, been threatened once. I had 2 state police detectives on my doorstep. wanting to know if I'd been threatening the governor. And that was over an email that I'd sent, and the infamous, I don't think it was John English. John English apparently was monitoring our email group and turned me into the state saying that I threatened the governor, which was a bald-faced lie. They were quite courteous, and they said, well, we didn't think there was anything to it, but we do have to investigate.
They have to check, yeah.
They have to check it out. So it all turned out fine. My wife was really freaked out, but
it would freak out most people having the state troopers at your door, because
yeah.
You don't know if logic is going to prevail here. There's an agenda.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and if there's an agenda, they're going to figure out a way to take you away.
Yeah. And so that's the only problem I have ever had, I guess, is for being an actress close to 20 years. There was a time, I like to tell the story, well, the time we were at the campus at the street fair with our free marijuana sign.
Yeah.
And you remember this story? And they had two city cops and two campus police showed up at our booth saying that they heard we were giving away free pot. And we told them, no, at $300 an ounce, no, we weren't giving away free pot.
Yeah.
They wanted to search our belongings, and so I said, well, you have a search warrant? And they said, no. I said, well, you're not going to search anything that I've got. So they said, well, they want to see your ID. So we showed them our ID. At that point, I didn't realize at that point we didn't have to do that either. I wish I'd known that at the time. But anyway, so they were writing down information from our ID, and then in the meantime, we had quite a crowd gathered, and I, in a loud voice, said, this is why we're out here, trying to change the laws so people won't have to be harassed like this. And that lady cop said, well, we're just doing our job. And I said, does it pay pretty well, violating people's rights on a regular basis? And she went stomping off. But anyway, I thought we made a pretty good point.
I'm glad she went stomping off. Sometimes that can backfire depending on how you say it, too.
Yeah. I was thinking later, I'd hate to be the person that she encounters next. But
well, maybe she learned something. You know,
maybe.
I mean,
Well,
people are, policemen are people. You know, they got families. They go home.
And I was making a point too, actually. Police do violate people's rights, and they do so on a regular basis. And if they say they don't, they're bald-faced liars. It's just like Mike and I, truck drivers. We both would tell you that part of our job description is to be an outlaw. Yeah, that's just it.
Sure.
I mean,
and it's always been that way.
When you got to get your truck from point A to point B, and you don't comply, and you haven't got any choice, well, you're going to be a lawbreaker doing it. That's just the way it is, and people don't. Everybody ignores that, but it's a fact.
Well, we've got 4,500 laws in which to break, you know, and so we've even got a ways, and I think the 4,500 laws allow this to, if you get, I mean, it's not logic anymore. It's not do no harm. I mean, it's so easy to get yourself arrested because we have so many broad laws, you know, so you got to be careful when you speak out. But I also feel that if you don't exercise your rights, they're gone. You know, they're just going to run right over you. They have their agenda, and unless you speak up against that and get others to stand up with you, we're going to be right back where we were, 10 years ago. And we have a good chance of doing that same thing here. I mean, we got legalization in 2 states, we got medical in almost 20, and we got a federal government who just is totally ignoring the will of the people, ignoring states' rights. And now that we got the door open, we need to walk through it. And so just because it's going in a good direction doesn't mean that it's going to continue doing that without people backing it up. You know, educate yourself, bother your representatives, tell them how you feel, show them the information that's out there so they can fight their own battles on the Senate floor and the House floor.
Definitely.
Because it really is getting old. I'm getting long in the tooth to be having this argument. You know, we've lied to my children's generation. Now they have kids that, hey, Friday comes, they're off of work, they know that they can go out and do coke, they can do acid, they can drink like crazy, and all that stuff is going to be out of their system by Monday when they get to work. So these kids aren't going home and smoking a joint, they're going out and binge drinking, going to farmer parties where they take pills, for fun. Because we've lied to them about pot, they know that for a fact. And so everything else we've been lying to them as well. So when you tell your kids that, hey, that blue pill, that red pill, those white pills, especially the unmarked homemade variety is some really dangerous thing, might not believe you. And so
Exactly.
unless you have a good trusting relationship with your children, they in fact will not believe you. You know, so that's what worries me. That kills thousands of kids a year, 20, 30,000 a year. You know, saying, whoops, death by misadventure because they were playing with pills.
Yeah.
All because they live in fear of that drug test, and that comes on Monday.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, the drug test. When did we start on drug testing?
Well, I know it bounced me around from job to job for a while when I was a truck driver.
Yeah, I've always said the only people that benefit from drug testing is the people that own the companies and have stock in the companies. Those are the ones that profit.
They're
from
doing
it.
real well, and they're also the ones that are behind organizations like SAM, which is called Smart About Marijuana.
Right, yeah.
And they are, you know, dead set that they're going to fight back against this legalization. And so far, you know, they're not going away.
Yep.
You know, they're well funded. National Institute of Health, you know, those crazy NIDA people are giving them money because they give them the rhetoric that they need. They gave them the space they need. Pretty people saying how their lives are ruined by marijuana. You know,
Definitely.
when in
Yep.
fact their lives are ruined because of ecstasy use and alcoholism and really just kind of an addictive personality in its own right. But you know, it's easy to blame pot because you have an audience that wants to hear that. They want to put that out there, that pot's evil, pot's bad, pot will kill you. And it doesn't do any of that.
That's right. So get educated and spread the word. Educate friends, family, and foes alike.
And speak up.
Speak up, that's right. And be sure to register to vote and just educate the public. I hate that term, but it's the fact what we need to do is educate and spread the word.
It's the hardest thing to do too.
Yeah, and I always call it the Johnny Appleseed mode, you know. Plant those seeds, even if they're bunk, plant those seeds everywhere, especially this time of year. Plant them in the flower gardens at the park. Plant them at the courthouse, around the courts and the city hall. Plant those seeds and they'll grow, you know, outgrow the government. So anyway, thanks for coming and welcome you to come down and visit the studio as we shoot the show on Monday nights at 7:30. That's behind Sheldon High School. It's the Community TV 29 studios. We're welcome to you to come by, come on the show if you like, or just sit by and watch. So come by, say hi. Bye.